Welcome to Represent NYC on Manhattan Neighborhood Network. I'm Gale Brewer, Manhattan Borough President. Today we'll be talking about minority and women-owned businesses and what the city is or is not doing to help them get more business by obtaining city contracts. This is of particular importance to my office, and we are starting a series of information events in the month of May to help inform what are called MWBEs, Minority and Women-Owned Business Enterprises. Joining me today are Bonnie Wong, founder and president of Asian Women in Business, AWIB, a national nonprofit organization based in Manhattan promoting the interests of Asian women, entrepreneurs, and professionals. Also with us is Latina Clark, owner of Sudsey Water Laundry and president of the Bradhurst Merchants Association. Thank you both for being here today. So I want to start with you, Bonnie. How, since you have been president of AWIB for a while, how have the MWBE programs evolved over time? And what are some of the gains and some of the setbacks that you've seen about these programs?
Yeah, it's been getting better, at least we see progress. I think in the beginning, when they started MWBE programs, it was more like a concept rather than an implementation. So they had the ideas there, but they really didn't fully implement it. And so with the new elected officials now coming in, the new mayor, I mean, the priority is clear, actually. So de Blasio, I'm not like promoting him or anything, but de Blasio has a really strong stance on promoting MWBEs. And his goal is $16 billion for over the next 10 years. And that's like huge. So we've never seen $16 billion. And right now, I think it's $1.6 billion in minority MWBE contracts given out by the city of New York. So what I've seen is positive, because I used to be negative and upset about the program because they would make us get certified, and it's a lot of paperwork, and there was nothing coming down the pipeline as far as contracts are concerned. So even though it's still a problem, at least I see progress. So we can work towards getting some contracts with the city of New York rather than just thinking about it and getting disgruntled, like including me. I was getting it. So now I see that we need to band together and then work with the city, work with the state, and then try to get more opportunities for minority and women business owners, which, by the way, people of color are 65% of the city of New York. And to not do this would be a travesty, basically, because the MWBE programs reflect the city of New York. We're just reflecting what we're all about as citizens, as people who live and work in New York City. So it's positive, everything's positive.
And the other thing is women are the fastest owned businesses in the United States, gaining. And secondly, I believe that it was like $4.3 billion in the last years of the Bloomberg administration total. That's not much. So $16 billion is a good goal.
Right, it's an excellent goal.
Latina, thank you for all you do for Bradhurst and for your own business. So again, same question, like what works, what doesn't work, how do you do partnerships? Because I know you have a lot of storefronters.
Yes. One of the things that I think the members of the Merchants Association have a particular difficulty with is how do I compete? Once the RFP is in, how do I complete the daunting paperwork? So as Bonnie and I were talking earlier, that's kind of a real issue. How do I go after this contract? How do I complete this paperwork? How do I compete for the contract? So that's what we see all the time, especially if you're a small business. And one of the things that Bonnie said is sometimes through the MWBE process, they ask anyone can become MWBE certified, but the city may not need what you offer. And that should probably be a decline that the city has. So if there could be some places to go, I know that we have SBS, and they do a great job in assisting people to become certified. What happens once you're certified is kind of the gray area that a lot of people don't understand.
And I think, Bonnie, you should respond to that, but the other issue is how much you are able to allocate as an agency in terms of discretionary. Because I know that's another issue. I think it's 5,000. Right. Construction is what, 35,000.
They just raised it. Actually.
And the state is 200,000 for construction. So does that also play a role in addition to the kind of product you have? and whether that is applicable to the city agencies. Also the issue of discretionary.
Right. Well, we should back up a little bit because I looked at the stats, only 1,400 women are certified in the city of New York. I mean, but then
And I think 4,115 or
total,
something total.
including
right?
everyone.
I was surprised how low that is.
That's really low.
I was shocked.
Yeah. So that has to be beefed up too. People don't understand what certification means. So we have to start by educating people and telling them the opportunities are there, but you have to be at the table in order to participate. So people are not at the table. So the city needs to beef up their outreach effort, and they have minimal outreach effort. So, I mean, and 4,100 is huge to them, by the way. This is
I
to
thought
them,
it was very small.
they're bragging about being huge, and that's how small it is. And then I was looking up the stats for women-owned businesses in New York is 682,000 women-owned businesses, but yet only 1,400 plus are certified, and of course the total is 4,100. So that's how sad it is. I mean, it's really, so we're not a part of the system yet. So, and then if we are a part of the system, there are opportunities. So we mentioned the $5,000 little micro contracts. You can get up to $5,000 with a city agency without competition. So that's good because the competition kind of level in the city, it's just huge. So a lot of the small businesses find it troublesome. They have all that paperwork. So on the 5,000 level, the paperwork is minimal. So people would love it, but it's so small. And construction, they just raised to 35,000, and the state has 200,000 as a limit. And the state is preventing the city actually from increasing at 200,000 because state laws. So the city is a little bit behind, partly because of, in that regard, partly because of state laws that need to be changed now in order to include more city people in the whole process.
So are there workshops that are being done at Bradhurst? I know, for instance, in our office, we had one with the African community, workshops with SBS. But it's hard. There's language issues,
Yes.
paperwork issues, and just fear of government issues. In other words, if I do all this work, what will I get out of it?
Yes, we meet once a month, Bradhurst Merchants Association, and one of the things that we strive to is to see how we can get everyone in the organization certified. Everyone in our organization qualifies to be certified. So we want 100% of our members to be MWBE certified, but we also want 100% of our members to have contracts with the city. So how do we get that done? And so one of the things is I always partner with your office, the Upper Manhattan Small Business Solutions Center, Harlem Business Alliance. We talked, so we're trying to work toward that goal to saying, okay, Mr. Jones has a construction company or he's a painter, how do we get him a city contract? So that's the effort for the whole entire group and me, myself as the president. You know, once we have one person in the contract,
they've had some
it makes
success,
it,
right.
yes,
And
it
they've
makes
had some
it,
success.
right, and they've had some success and they're enjoying it, then it makes it easier for everyone else because we're learning from each other in the organization. So
Bonnie, you identified one challenge barrier is the 5,000 maximum. Have you had success with some of your members with getting city contracts? Because I know your members also work with private companies.
There's very little success, to be honest. The city isn't that easy to overcome. And sometimes, it's not a problem, but there are some minority-owned businesses are large, and so they tend to get most of the contracts. So the smaller minority-owned businesses, the newer ones, and not in business for 30 years or whatever, don't have as many opportunities. So it's also going towards bigger contractors. So the smaller guys would love more opportunities in the $5,000 level in goods and services. And construction is a different ballgame, right? So that's 35,000 is nothing in construction actually. So 200,000 is the better level. So most of our people don't get anything. We get private contracts with corporations because we're pretty competitive, but then corporations are much more flexible. The city has all these rules sometimes, oh my God.
Because it's our taxpayer money, I'm just saying.
Yes, I know we have to be more careful, but then it's harder sometimes to get in, but it's easier for my people to get corporate contracts. I was telling her that one of my members makes natural soap products and she sold it to NYU. But the city, it's hard for her to get into the city. We're trying really hard for her, but then right away NYU is now putting all her natural soap products in all their restrooms. So, and she's new, she's only been in business a few years. So, but it works with other places. So hopefully the city will step up to the table and also, recognize her as a legitimate business.
And also, we're supposed to be green, so there's a good reason to be doing
Right,
that.
exactly.
Another reason.
And she's a minority woman-owned business,
Right.
and it's all made in New York. On top of that, it's all manufactured in New York.
Wow.
So she's the ideal person. But sometimes government takes a while to catch up. So, but then she has a track record. So hopefully it's going to change.
Yes, and one of our members had a large contract with the city, but he felt like the payment process was very difficult for him to maintain his staffing with the city. So that's another issue. He has this large contract. He's manning the contract, but weekly you have to pay your employees. So if the city takes 90 to 120 days to pay, it creates a deficit and a small business. So
I was going to say the issue of payment and capital up front and bonding. Those are just some of the issues. And I know the mayor has put, I think, $20 million into trying to address these issues in terms of capital and so on, based on what you suggested that the administration is trying. But it is still hard.
And I think Bonnie said, the city, I guess, sticks with the devil it knows. So, when you have a successful contract with a larger agency, why give a small guy an opportunity because he may not have the capital to sustain his staff or whatever, maintain repairs, anything. So sometimes I think that's why. So we want opportunities for smaller companies too, and to work with the city and then see how we can grow maybe. So maybe if we can raise the discretionary cap, it allows a small business to come into the city, do the work, and then grow gradually.
And have a track record.
Right, and have a track record, right.
Because you could start small, and then if you show, you should be rewarded, right, if you fulfill the contract.
I think the other issue is how do you, make sure that you partner. That's another way. In other words, sometimes possibilities of partnering with a majority firm gets you in the door, gives you a track record. But again, that's hard. That's another challenge that people are facing.
Right. That's
Well, sometimes what your work, once you put these conferences and workshops together, maybe in the room there's someone that we can partner with. So that's a great thing that you're doing, Gale.
Yeah, we're trying. I mean, I think that in general the city is suggesting that, particularly for the construction. I think that's what you're talking about. Now, there's this other program, Payee Information Portal, called PIP. And I think some of the merchants are aware of that. But basically what it says is that if you are a small, either MBE or what I would call just local, LDC, Local Development Corporation, small, then you can get a faster payment from the City of New York. You don't have to get reimbursed, you can get a direct payment. So we've been doing that in our office, we have 1 million events, and so we're trying to have coffee and Danish and maybe some granola, something healthier, maybe.
You can use my number.
Absolutely. But anyway, the issue is you get faster payments, so that means that you could sign up and hopefully get selected by the agency. So every little bit helps. The other problem is, the city is also bound for the lowest bid, right? And the cheapest bid. That's another problem. And so you end up with a large chain sometimes, which of course used to infuriate me and still does. Or you end up with the same furniture contract that everybody's been using forever because it's less expensive. And then nobody else has a chance. That's a problem.
Yes, that is a problem, especially when someone is small, because we're not buying the goods or services at a large quantity, so we have to offer it more expensively than someone who's a larger firm may be able to get a volume discount for their products.
Yeah, office supplies is a good example.
Right.
I mean, why not go to the big guys? I could see, and they have stores all over, so it is more convenient. Yeah, I mean, you could understand that.
You do understand it, but then if you are trying to increase your MWBEs, it doesn't work. So you have to find a way, and I think increasing the discretionary might be one way to do that. If you want to buy a conference table as a city agency and you have to go to this huge furniture outlet as opposed to your local furniture store on Bradhurst, in the Bradhurst Merchants, that would make more sense. But these are barriers that we absolutely have to overcome. And the disparity studies are showing that women and communities of color are getting hurt by this contracting process. I mean,
Right.
that's good to have the disparity study showing that. I think there's another one that was done or being done last year.
Yes, I think
the
the
state
comptroller,
is different
Scott
than-
Stringer's office did a grading for the MWBE. And I think also he put something together called the Red Tape Commission to say that some of these barriers is because the city requires so much paperwork and faxing and you know, we have a lot to go. Some systems are antiquated and some city agencies don't speak to each other. You know, it's kind of like you have to go here and then you have to go there and then you have to go there. So, you know, if we can kind of join things together, but as Bonnie said, the administration is getting better and people are focusing on this issue. So that's always great. It's improvement. I guess we should be thankful
Right.
for that.
And I think Maya Wiley, who's the general counsel to the mayor,
She's great.
is really
Yeah.
terrific. She's given great testimony at the city council, and she's really trying to overcome some of these barriers. Bonnie, what do you think if you could pick a couple of barriers that need to overcome? Discretionary, obviously for construction has to be included, maybe streamline the paperwork. There's an effort also for people to be able to track where their contract is online, because you know you don't hear like, okay, I bid, what happened?
Right.
You know, whereas you can probably call a corporation and say, you know, where is my contract? But do you have any sense of some of the other challenges?
Well, the city in general needs to be more online. I mean, their technology, I mean, it is improving, but they're not up to date. So, I hate to criticize SBS, but SBS didn't have, we had a meeting at the mayor's office and SBS was talking about outreaching in multiple languages. And I said, how come I don't see it on your website? Oh, it's not updated. But I'm just saying that sometimes people don't know about things if you don't put it on your website, because people look at the internet, they Google things. So if it's not there, they won't know about it. It makes outreach easier, actually. But if you're not up to date, it doesn't matter how easy and accessible information is because you didn't put the right information on. So everything needs to be updated. Yeah. And then certification needs to be easier. It's too burdensome. They ask for this and this, and then they also, when you renew, they ask for the same information. Meanwhile, you've been there already. Why do you have to keep proving that you're a minority woman or minority? Because you have to constantly prove the same thing over and over again sometimes. So they need to streamline things. And then access to capital, of course, is always a problem for minority and women-owned businesses because it takes money to gear up. Sometimes if you do get a contract, you really need to get the inventory. I mean, there's a lot of reasons that sometimes it's hard to bid on certain contracts, but if you have more capital, and then if you have more support from the city of New York, people who are there and accessible, it would make it easier. Because we're a small nonprofit, there's only so much we can do. So I had a city contract, and it was so burdensome for me, I actually didn't want it. So, you know, it's not like I'm rich or anything, but it was so burdensome that I didn't want it. So that's how bad sometimes the red tape is. So if we just lessen it, a lot of us could participate more. And then instead of going to just corporate, because corporate is much easier, but you can't say or you can't convince me that corporate is going to not get good service and products, right? So the big corporations do get it. And why is it the government has to make you prove it all the time when the corporation already gives it to you and you don't have to prove as much? And you do produce, because if you don't produce in this world, you lose everything, right?
Yeah.
If you don't provide products and services, you lose the contract, you lose business. So I think that the city needs to understand that sometimes the proof is so difficult. You know, what they want proof is that it discourages people.
That must be true for your merchants also, Lashina.
Yes, it's very true for the merchants. The paperwork is very burdensome, and it's difficult to overcome a lot of times. And like Bonnie said, if you ask what my birth nationality is, you don't need to ask that a second time, do you? It's going to stay the same most of the time. So when we recertify, the question should be, are you in good legal standing, right? Is your business still in good legal standing? Yes, okay, you're recertified. Do we need to go through the whole paperwork? So that's kind of thing. Capital, of course, is always an issue.
Is there capital available? I mean, is that something that the city has made known that it's available?
I think there's some but I think it may be for construction only, that there is, what do they call the loans, Bonnie, interim loans when you
Like
have a
bridge
city,
loans.
yes,
Right.
bridge
Bridge
loans when you have a city contract. But it's only for certain contracts,
Right.
we found, with my conversations with SBS. It's only for certain things. So one of the things I think is great, since we have such a small number, we're at 1,400. So the goal would be to utilize 1,400 women-owned businesses, or even 4,000. Let's include everyone, because the conversation is about everyone. If we have such a small number, the city has 7, 8 million people in it. We have a tiny, tiny percentage. If we could somehow outreach to those 4,000 people, the agencies, to see how we can gear up people and get them into it. So raising the discretionary from 5,000 to 25,000 would be great, because then a small business like myself can say, well, we can handle a $25,000 contract. I might not be able this year to handle a $1.2 million contract, but once I have the track record, then I can apply for bridge loans or different things, because everyone wants to see how you maintain, what your example is. How do we get an example if we never start?
Right, and also the 4,000 peer-to-peer would be helpful.
Oh, yes, that
So
would be
people
know
know what the pluses and minuses are
minuses.
and what worked and what didn't work.
Yes. So, but I know that these are issues, and I'm glad you're asking these questions, because, we're solving the problem, right?
Right.
We're trying to.
Yeah, the
yes.
city is doing a great job. I mean, sometimes I'm a
agree.
little critical, but then you can always do better in life. That's why. So that's the reason for any kind of criticism I have. But because I think the city is doing a great job, actually.
Yeah.
But I still criticize them.
And my merchants at the Bradhurst Merchants Association, we're small. We're small businesses. A lot of
So that's
storefronts,
another
yes.
challenge is
Yes.
with all because they find you for your fines and fees. They find, so you have that, plus the paperwork for applying to be MWBEs.
Yes. It's a lot.
Right.
So, if the city can streamline some of the things, because we have a small pool to deal with. So if we can get these 4,000 people up and running, businesses going and focusing on those, then we can, of course, increase that, because then every business will say, well,
So
we wanted to.
has SBS come out and done workshops, or people know about workshops?
Yes, we
Just-
know. We always talk about the workshops. Harlem Community Development Corporations has workshops. SBS, they're great. Harlem Business Alliance, where we are. There's a lot of workshops, the workshops at your office. So we have the information, we disseminate the information amongst our members. So that's always great. But is the information the same information that we always receive? And can some of the information be changed to be more helpful? That's what we have to get to. How if we're getting the same information at every workshop that we go to, we need to figure out a way to change it.
Right. And I think the other issue is, everything's advertised on the city record, but, how do you actually know when the discretionary opportunities are there? I don't know. Is that something that is available? How do you find out that there's a $5,000 or $49,999 discretionary contract available?
Well, the competitive ones is very easy to find out, but the discretionary one, the $5,000, unfortunately, it's not really any place. So you will have to actually research.
Yeah.
So usually, like certain places where a lot of far-flung branches, so Parks Department and Police Department have a lot of little offices all over the city. You can go, it's really burdensome for some people. Some people do it, though. Go to all the facilities to find out about the smaller contracts. Because the smaller the facility is, more likely they're open to that, actually. So, but it is work. It's work. But then if people know about it, they don't mind the work. Because, to make money, to do business, it is work.
And I assume once you get a contract, then you'll be able to get another one. In other words, once somebody knows you, that's how it works in general.
Right.
Sure.
To the detriment of the MWBEs, because you go back and back to the same. But
Right,
now
exactly,
that if you knew, so that's something. That's very burdensome for the research, though. But that is one example of how you have to go about it.
Right, and so Bonnie is saying that she gave up her contract due to paperwork and the requirements and different. So we have $16 billion, which is huge to small business. New York is based on small business. We love it. We like to have our unique places to go to. New Yorkers, we don't want Walmarts and Targets. We want the little boutique or the local place to go, so someone when you go in, everyone says, "Hi, Bonnie," you know, right? We like that.
Absolutely. I would say that your two constituencies are the best, really.
Yes.
But you might also want to add that sometimes small businesses give better products and
Yes,
services. It's not
yes.
always like we're at a disadvantage because of size, but sometimes we provide better service and better
Absolutely.
products, so it's not, we don't need the company, we
Absolutely.
need accessibility.
Yeah. We have to end this, I'm afraid. It goes so quickly. So this has been a fascinating and important discussion, and I'd like to thank my guests for sharing their insights with me. If you'd like to be notified about our upcoming MBE, WBE events or other events hosted by my office, please sign up for our newsletter using the information on the screen. I'm Gale Brewer, Manhattan Borough President, and thank you for watching Represent NYC on Manhattan Neighborhood Network. And again, thank you to my guests. Oh my goodness, you're fabulous.
Thank you.